I want people to understand this ordeal. It's taken a toll on both of us.
Casey Anthony's parents respond after 15 years of allegations.
I've gotten blamed for something I didn't do, and it tears me up inside.
This can change our life. This is serious.
This is their final response.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still.
Casey Anthony's parents, the lie detector test. Watch now, only on A&E. And watch next day on the A&E app.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac, and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
Little Comfort is a hauntingly twisted psychological thriller by Edwin Hill. Set among Boston's elite, it introduces an unforgettable 4'9" investigator named Hester Thursby, whose missing persons case uncovers a trail of vicious murder and stolen identities. 12 years ago, two teenage friends ran away, reinventing themselves again and again as they roamed the country, preying on the wealthy. Now the brilliant and conflicted Hester is on their trail. Little Comfort by Edwin Hill is now available everywhere books are sold. Visit edwin-hill.com for more info. That's edwin-hill.com.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On, the podcast about other podcasts and also about true crime, pop culture, TV, journalism. And this week, we head back to the lake to make dirty money clean with Ozark's second season. Then we'll look at the podcast dubbed The Next Dirty John. It's Dr. Death from Wondery, and an investigation into a Texas surgeon who really doesn't know the meaning of do no harm. Joining me to get all that done and a whole lot more is my true crime co-author and real-life husband, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello. I said it like Laura did, so she's going to have to say it a different way this week.
Also with us is true crime author, journalist, former defense investigator, licensed private investigator, and certified cat lady, Laura Bricker. Hello, Laura Bricker.
Hello, Rebecca Lavoie.
Very good.
That's still pretty much the same.
Very official.
It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
And finally with us, our resident Doubting Thomas, the novelist behind the acclaimed City Trilogy, and our Patreon-exclusive book club host, Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
No.
Trying to be like Wondery, but probably not very successfully.
Cue the very literal music. Now, Toby, you did record another Patreon-exclusive book club podcast. It's going to be dropping sometime in the next few days.
Awesome.
Can you just tell us very briefly what that podcast is about so if folks want to go and support us on Patreon, they have a reason to do so?
The reason that you would do so is because it's me and Laura Bricker and Katie from Date with Dateline and Rabia Chaudhry talking about a book called The Fact of a Body, which is both sort of a memoir and a true crime story. It's a very interesting read. Like if you read it, you definitely want to listen to the discussion, but the discussion's pretty good. Anyway, we discuss a bunch of sort of interesting things that are sort of related to the book, but you don't have to have read the book, I think, to get something out of it.
Right. Now, Laura, you had never spoken with Rabia before. I didn't realize. I was connecting you all for the recording, and it's always fun to I had forgotten that Laura had never met Rabia before. Mm-hmm. But of course, you know, Kimberly was like, oh my God, it's such a pleasure to meet you, Rabia. People are such huge fans. But I forgot, Laura, you had never talked to her before. How was that for you?
I know. I was so excited. I feel like totally left out. I mean, you guys have all met Patrick Hines. You've all met Rabia or talked to Rabia. I'm like, you know, I need to catch up here. So it was very exciting. I did try to entice her to come and visit Exeter like I do with everybody. Bring Mr. Beans. Yeah, so it was great to finally actually talk to her, and instead of just in the Twitterverse, actually in person.
Yeah.
Can I spill a little tea about Rabia?
Is it going to be embarrassing?
No, not terribly embarrassing. So we went to Rabia's home once to have a nice lunch when we were in the area.
You've been there once. I've been there many times.
Okay, I went there once.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in the kitchen. I could keep hearing like something chirp.
Oh my God! Yes.
Chirp, and I'm like, that sounds like a fire alarm.
Smoke detector.
Where the batteries are about to die. And I kind of like looked around and, I said, hey, Robbie, not to get nosy, but I was like, it became a topic of discussion. So I was kind of looking around for like, well, where is that coming from? And, weeks later, Rebecca is going through some audio tape from Rabia's, and she can still hear on the tape.
Oh, yeah.
The smoke detector.
It was like a year of me editing around smoke detector chirping for Undisclosed. I'm not kidding. Like, she couldn't even hear it anymore.
She just become
Ken
ear
would
blind.
not be happy to hear this at all, Rabia. Oh, no.
But, Rebecca, you said very recently she
finally changed the batteries. Yes.
Changed the battery. Or the battery just died finally.
It's been resolved. Yes. Their whole house could burn down and they wouldn't know. But apparently we don't even have that chirping anymore.
Yeah. Podcast celebrities. They're just like us.
Well, I just finally changed a light bulb in the kitchen that's been out for like 4 months. So I was like waiting for Ken to do it. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to have to do this myself. I'm going to have to get out the little step stool because I'm only 4'9" and put the light bulb in. So
you're solving some mysteries
with their tiny little hands.
It's a lot brighter in my kitchen now, too.
Laura Bricker, the Carrie Strug of the Crime Writers crew. All right. Well, big news this week, Kevin. Can you please read one of these for me?
True Crime Podcast Updates.
It's the one we've been waiting for.
Drum roll.
Huge news this week. After long last, Sarah Koenig and the crew at Serial dropped something in our feeds announcing the arrival of the much anticipated Season 3. The Grand Dam of podcasting will return September 20th with a new take on the American criminal justice system.
If you've listened to Serial before, you probably know that our first season was about a murder case in Baltimore. Ever since that story aired, people have asked me and the people I work with, what does that case tell us about the criminal justice system? And the answer is, the case of Adnan Syed wasn't typical in any way. Defendant with no criminal record, private defense attorney, rarest of all, a 6-week trial. The vast majority of cases don't even go to trial. I don't think we can understand how the criminal justice system works by interrogating one extraordinary case. Ordinary cases are where we need to look.
Instead of diving into a single story and telling it week after week, Sarah and the Serial team will present what they found after spending a year in a Cleveland courthouse. So what this means for us, listeners, you may be wondering. For those of you who've been with us a long time, you know that covering Serial week to week is how we started this little podcast. And
how we'll end it.
And how we're going to be doing it again this time. Barring some sort of horrible circumstance, a.k.a. if Serial turns out to be terrible, which I doubt it will be, we are planning to cover Serial week to week, which means we're going to be doing a slight schedule change for the next few weeks while Serial is dropping.
What?
We are going back to weekly episodes. This is the first of our return to weekly episodes. Mm-hmm. But instead of dropping our episodes on Friday mornings, we're going to be dropping them on Monday mornings because, as you all know, Serial comes out on Thursdays. And we can't time travel. and this podcast does take a long time to put together after we record. So I just need a little extra time. So
Can't we do one of those crappy podcasts where we just go on the air and throw the microphone on and have all these hiccups and rough edges?
Coughing. Toby's burping.
I hear a lot of those.
Burping.
Yeah.
Flatulence.
No, we're going to make it sound good.
No, we want to make it sound good. And we're going to talk about other stuff, too, during the run of Serial. But we are going to be switching our drop date to Monday. So for those of you who've already written us emails about it after our little mini preview trailer that we dropped last week, sorry, that's what's happening. You can still save that episode for the following weekend if you'd like. Yeah. Of course, then you'll be behind, so you probably don't want to do that. Let's talk about what we heard in that trailer. What do you think we can expect here? It sounds a little bit like This American Life. It sounds a little bit like Serial. It sounds a little bit like something new, but it also sounds familiar. Kevin, what were your impressions of what you heard in the Serial trailer?
Yeah, it reminds me, or I guess my expectation would be that it'd be a little more like This American Life than it would be of Serial Season 1. In fact, I don't think there'll ever be, Serial will ever attempt to do another murder mystery. I think they'd be crazy to do it because, I mean, they really caught lightning in a bottle. And although there are hundreds of millions of Serial fans. Some of them, I would say a lot of them are going to be disappointed that it's just not the next mystery of the week kind of thing. But it is going to be looking at sort of the nexus between the other two seasons, where we look at both Adnan Syed and Bo Bergdahl about how the system works. This is a look at the system and from the inside and how it works.
Right. Toby, what were your impressions when you heard the trailer for the next season of Serial? What do you think, and what are you expecting to hear?
Well, it's something that I think in concept I'm really excited for, because I think this is, I've talked about in the past that this is something that really sort of examines the whole system rather than these individual cases, no matter how they exemplify like sort of the larger problems, but take a look at the whole system. It sounds like they've got like incredible access. So I would say my expectations or my hopes are pretty high for it. But again, it's slightly different from what they've done in the past. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they address this sort of mosaic format rather than the sort of one story told week by week.
Laura, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, as a person among us who has spent the most time inside regular cases in a regular criminal justice system, what did you think when you heard what you heard in that Serial trailer?
I think I'm going to be feeling very nostalgic for my time at the public defender, because as I was listening to this, I was like, yes, I have lived this. I have been on the inside. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see, what information she is able to get. But, I lived through a lot of these little cases where, you think they're innocent, you think they're guilty, you think maybe they are guilty, but the process isn't fair how they're being handled. So there's a lot that goes into all sorts of cases, not just, high profile murder cases on a daily basis. And it's going to be interesting to see, if she includes the human backstory in terms of these people's personal life circumstances that led them to being arrested. And that's the part that I always felt like, when I had been a newspaper reporter before I went to do defense work, I think that's the part that a lot of times got left out, because that was something that people weren't necessarily willing to share with the news media.
Right.
When I was a defense investigator, obviously I heard all of it because I was doing social backgrounds on people and trying to find mitigating circumstances. So that's the part I think I'm looking forward to hearing.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit of Sarah's journey. I mean, I think, in retrospect, obviously, people are critical of Serial Season 1. I think it's very easy to Monday morning quarterback it 4 years later and forget what it was when it was new, because, you can say she didn't do the case, the service it deserved. You can say, different aspects of how the story was reported. But, my standing criticism of Serial Season 1 and my standing criticism of Sarah Koenig's style, even though, of course, I admire her pretty much more than I admire anybody else in our business, is that she does attack stories sometimes with a sort of naivete, where she will, when she's tackling a complicated problem, present a dichotomy. With Adnan Syed, it was either he's innocent or he's a psychopath. And we heard that even in this trailer. We hear her, talking about that guy and whether or not he should be pleading guilty, pleading out, defending himself. And she says,
My thought was, if Greg Rucker was risking that much prison time, and if he was so sure of his case that he wanted to argue it alone, without the interference of a lawyer, either Greg Rucker was innocent or he was bonkers.
He's either not guilty or he's bananas. It's always like that dichotomy. And she did have some naivete, I think, in Serial Season 1 and in the Bergdahl season, just around, she does... Is
it naivete or is that curiosity?
Well, no, there's naivete where she assumes good actors, when I don't think that if you look at the pattern broadly, like the evidence of the good actors is there in the way that she assumes it to be. I mean, we heard it in her, episode 7 of Serial Season 1 when she was talking to the Innocence Project. And, Deirdre Enright said that she really read a lot of racial overtones in the Adnan Syed file.
And I'm a little concerned about racial profiling here,
Oh, really? On the part of Adnan. In other words, like he's a Pakistani Muslim and...
Right. And people are saying, his dark side.
And, Sarah's like, really? I don't know. And, I am interested to see, and I think that what could happen in this season, and I do think it would be a mistake for Sarah to not inject some of her own experience here. I do think we could end up with some sort of personal journey mixed with these stories, and I hope we do, because to me, that's what makes Serial stand out, and that's what will, after what In the Dark did with Season 2, a story about the criminal justice system being broken is going to have to be spectacular to be better than what they did. It's going to have to be spectacular.
Yeah, the bar is so much higher now than it was for Serial season 1. That just seems so revolutionary at the time.
Yep.
As far as the storytelling goes, largely due to Serial, the storytelling has gotten so good, and the reporting has gotten so good in some instances that I think to distinguish itself, it's going to have to be superior.
Yep.
To season 1. But I think the one thing that I've kind of felt like she does better than anybody else has done is where you're sort of feeling shift after each successive episode. Like you feel like you have a different like lens on something or a different viewpoint or something suddenly changes. And that's what I kind of felt she did the best.
Yeah.
That still really holds up. Like I haven't had that sort of urge to talk about the last episode of any other podcast the way it was with Serial. So I'm kind of hoping that she can recreate that.
Yeah, and I think that this team too, this team was born of the This American Life team. They do the embedded story better than anybody else. Some of the most fascinating episodes of This American Life have been embedded stories. There was a whole episode where they embedded it with a car dealership. That's one of the most spectacular hours of radio I've ever heard. They did the one at the rest stop when they had all those J1 visa students working at this like upstate New York rest stop in these like terrible fast food jobs, and they just spent the whole like overnight shift on a weekend with these kids. Like they're good at this. So even if it's, doesn't reach all our expectations, it's going to be good. I'm sure it's going to be good. And of course, we'll be right there covering it moment by moment.
Yeah, I have no doubt that it'll be a quality piece. I think that people will complain about what it is.
Haters going to hate Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to it's like we're returning to the golden age of Crime Writers On now.
That's right. That's right.
The week-to-week serial. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it, too.
The good old days.
I'm looking forward to it, too. All right. Well, let's move on and discuss some content on our show, shall we, Kevin?
All right.
Now we're going to revisit Netflix's hit crime show, Ozark, the drama starring Jason Bateman and Laura Linney that combines white-collar crime and redneck gothic returns for a second season.
We know that Marty Bird launders millions of dollars a year for the Navarro cartel. What we need to know are the details of how he does it.
You do realize that you're betting everything on being able to pull this off.
Yeah.
Came as some surprise, spoken to his eyes.
You're a businessman.
Thought you died alone.
Not a killer.
We find the Birds again caught between the Mexican cartel and the hillbilly poppy growers who threaten their family. Their attempt to build a riverboat casino in order to launder the local drug money is met with complication after complication. Does this new installment live up to the show's mesmerizing debut? Now, we will be giving away some spoilers for Ozark's second season, so if you want to skip that part of our discussion, just go to the time code found in the show notes to get our thumbs up or thumbs down review to find out if we think you should check it out. Now, I think it would be disingenuous to not come out right out of the gate and address one huge change from Ozark Season 1 to Ozark Season 2. This show got super dark in a way that I don't remember feeling like it was in Season 1. It was dark, but it also had a lot of light moments, and this season, noticeably, those moments were absent. Thoughts, Kevin?
You mean it was darker than the baby getting ripped out of the mother,
yes.
and then we think the pastor's going to drown him in the last scene of the...
There was plenty of dark material in Season 1, but there was also plenty of, like, in some ways, family hijinks of, like, the kids learning that their parents were criminals and, like, sort of the way they dealt with that, and sort of, like, the more bumbling aspects of, regular people who are now running, like, a criminal empire. So
I think it struck all the same notes on that. So I see what you're saying. It also had sort of that mixed in normalcy along with the incredible criminal complications that just kept coming.
I think what I'm talking about with Season 1 is we saw them learning how to do this in Season 1. And now they're jaded. It just got super dark and very complicated. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Rebecca. I mean, even the atmosphere was dark. I mean, it was like always cloudy or overcast. There was never like a sunny day. except when their poppy field went up in a blaze of fire at the heroin dealers. But I felt like this whole season, it felt a lot darker and a lot more intense to me because I think a lot of the characters that in the first season were sort of along for the ride, trying to figure out what to do, are now active participants in the criminal enterprise. Laura Linney's character goes from kind of being like along for the ride, pissed off at her husband, trying to survive, to this season just kind of really almost taking over the reins. And she's like the mastermind of the operation. The kids are in on it this time. You've got all sorts of like creepy stuff going on with Ruth and her father out at the compound. And then we can say spoilers here, we watch a guy get incinerated, for crying out loud. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, I felt like we have drug overdoses. I felt like this whole season was really intense, and the pace too. I felt like it was just like one thing after another the entire 10 episodes. Like it was like every bad thing that could happen pretty much happened.
Yeah, we had the Kansas City mob, we have Rachel ODing, we have Buddy dying, we have everything that's going on in the poppy farm, we have Mason kidnapping Wendy. Toby, I believe that was the storyline that took it over the top for you, the kidnapping of Wendy by Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like this season, the sort of storytelling, the structure was just right there to see. Like it was losing some of the craft that I thought it had in the first season, in that, there's this idea for thrillers that you have a protagonist and you have his or her goal, and then you just throw up obstacle after obstacle after obstacle that they have to overcome to achieve it.
Right.
In this case, I mean, it just seems like so clearly exactly what they did. As they sat, they'll be like, well, then this will happen, and that'll make it harder, and this will happen. And then to the point where it gets to, the preacher, and that whole plot point, like, A, seemed completely unnecessary. B, I didn't find at all believable. And I think there's a lot of places along the way where it just kind of seemed like things happened just to make things more complicated for Marty.
Yep.
But in this one, it seemed like it came out of nowhere, had no real bearing on the rest of the story. And I know they like trade the kid gets traded around a few times to make some deals, but you could have done without that. I mean, the big thing was she gets kidnapped. You're not sure who it is at first. It turns out to be the preacher, and then they kill him, which adds some stress, and there's some timing issues. I mean, and the other thing that kind of shows that same issue, which is sort of the transparency of what they're doing, is that it seemed like every freaking thing had to happen in 24 or 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're trying to get the number of casinos raised to 13, and it's like, well, the vote's in 48 hours. Like, haven't you fucking like looked into that before? Like, this is like a last minute thing for you?
Yeah.
And then it's like, we need this in 24. It's like everything is like, it's got to happen next and next. And it's so compressed that I can't believe that the number of people around Marty who die doesn't like raise some. I don't know why he wouldn't just be taken into custody and like, look, man, there's like 4 people around you who have died in the last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like something weird's going on.
So many deaths this season, which in some ways makes the slate more open for new characters, which I think the show needs at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But Toby just had something interesting, though, talking about sort of the rules of suspense. Your protagonist has to have a goal, and then the obstacles in the way of that goal. Was the goal of the season, this is what I struggled with, because I'll just put my cards on the table. I love this show, and I looked forward to watching it, but it did feel, I think the seams showing is a really good way to describe it. Is the goal this season to open a casino, and do we give a shit about that? Or is the goal
USS
for them to
MacGuffin?
Or is the goal for them to get away? Like, but do we want them to get away? Because if they get away, they're not going to be here, which is where we want them to be as an audience, that the story can happen. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I think it's supposed to be you're going along with
MacGuffin.
You're going along for the ride. I know that like people like to compare it to Breaking Bad, and I think you don't, Rebecca. You don't see the comparison.
I know I see the comparison. I don't like the comparison. I think it's an unfair comparison. The show has a different premise, but it is now veering into more of that territory.
But what it does have in common is that you have these characters who have a legitimate talent and have to find a way to use it in the illegitimate world.
Right.
And we, as the viewer, also don't know much about that illegitimate world, but see it through the obstacle and the viewpoint of this person. So the way Marty Byrde has some comparison to Walter White, I think it's in that way. And you wonder, like, at what point, to use the term, does the character break bad. And while Marty's done, a lot of bad things, I don't really think
Laura Linney has broken bad.
She seems to have. So I think we're wondering a little more. I think it's about the characters, and Marty is an interesting character, and he does now have some blood on his hands, which really bothered him. Well,
yeah, I think that's the first time you saw him actually kind of start to break a little bit.
Yeah.
From his pace and his singular focus that he's had. I don't know about you guys. That's when I was like, oh, he's finally breaking a little bit. And his wife is going to have to be the one who steps in now because he just didn't seem to be able to handle it after he killed that guy.
Yeah, he's glib. And he's not so glib anymore all of a sudden. I do want to talk about my favorite characters in the show. And to me, this is what makes it different. I mean, because I think the focus on the kids on the show. The kids are so beautifully cast on this show, and I'm going to mistakenly lump Julia Garner, who plays Ruthin, with the kids. I'm talking about the younger set of actors on this show who really drive the story. First of all, the actors who play the kids are so good, and it is so hard to cast and get kids and young people who can act as well as these young people can act. The whole idea, and I think it was a fun twist that very unrealistic. I'm sure Toby's going to completely disagree. But Jonah the son, applying his gaming talents and being able to do shit on the computer and, open his own bank account and move money around and be completely nonchalant about joining the Enterprise, and the way that the parents talk about it in front of their kids are super nonchalant about it. There were so many times I watched this show, Kevin, where I was like, if we had a money laundering business, this is exactly how we would be. We just talk about it in front of our kids. That's how we are.
Yeah, which is also why we'd be dead. But
Toby, do you, at least performance-wise, enjoy the young people on this show as much as I do?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ruth, is outstanding.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess I disagree with your prediction of my assessment in being that I wouldn't like it and find it unrealistic. I mean, the whole thing is unrealistic.
Yes.
I mean, the whole thing is based around this fantasy that a middle-class family can totally cope with the Mexican drug cartels and, the redneck opium growers and the Kansas City mob and Missouri legislature and the police. So it's all this, it's just this big fantasy. What was smart about what they did is it went from being the fantasy of Marty, you're a middle-aged, accountant, but you could totally do this action-adventure stuff using your knowledge and your guts. And now they've moved it to the entire family.
Yep.
And saying your entire family could be dealing with it. There was a point at which I was like, just send them to a freaking boarding school. There's no reason for them to be in the house with you.
In the Americans.
Get them the hell out of there. But that's not the deal. I mean, the whole thing is about how, as a family, they can pull together and sort of be on equal terms with these criminal kingdoms. You have to kind of check what you understand as being the reality of, if my family, for some reason, started messing with a Mexican drug cartel, we would be killed very quickly and without remorse.
Yes.
But you have to get past that to enjoy the show. Which,
but didn't you think? I mean,
I
thought one of the most clever things to happen this season, you see their daughter really struggle with the morality stuff. I mean, she's struggling with it. I think one of the reasons that I do like this show is that there is not exposition around everything. And her relationship with Wyatt, this kid living in a marginalized trailer on the side of the lake who lives in a completely different way than she does, I really think informs sort of her character development. And I loved the scene at the dining room table when she's talking to her parents who are talking about their criminal enterprise, and they get super pissed at her when she says, I stole a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're talking about laundering money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you have, teenagers, the fight that she and her mom have is just so painfully relatable, where you just feel like, I am messed up, you're messed up, but at some point you have to listen to me, and you won't. I mean, Laura Linney is also just completely knocks it out of the park in this show. Let's be real. Let's be real.
Yeah.
All right. So, Laura Bricker, I know you have thoughts about our FBI friend, Agent Petty. He had an interesting demise this season, an interesting story arc. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, in the beginning, the first couple episodes, I'm like, I hate this guy. Oh, God, I hate this guy. He was to me, almost like the villain. And I'm like, how bad is it that I'm rooting for the people that are committing all this criminal activity? against the person who's there trying to put an end to it. But as his character kind of progressed and, he ends up kind of deciding he's going to go take care of his mother. You see this very sort of tender scene where he goes to see his mother who, I don't know if she was terminally ill and taking drugs or she was just a drug addict or what was going on with her. But when you think he's finally leaving and you're like, oh, good, he's finally leaving. And then this tragic end occurs at the hands of Ruth's father. My impression of that character definitely changed and evolved through the season. And I definitely went from hating him to kind of, he's not half bad. And there was also some irony in the location where he met his end, which was where he had started his affair with the brother of the man who ultimately killed him down by the river fishing.
Geez, Laura, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think Agent Petty is a psychopath, and I hated him from beginning to end.
I felt bad for him after he was going to help his mother. Didn't you feel some sympathy?
Well, I probably would feel more had he not behaved so psychotically. And I think about the way he talks to his partner, who he used to have the affair with.
Yeah, yeah.
And how he throws that in his face over and over and over again, and just like his sort of lack of, I don't know. I mean, I think what's really...
that other guy's not really in his league.
No.
He's like so above Petty.
But I felt like he finally had a turnaround and he's going to get whacked.
Yeah. Well, you can't escape this town, apparently. It's like a Stephen King town. You just can't get out.
It is. Oh my God. Now there's one other thing that I noticed this season. I don't know if anyone else picked up. I felt like the role of women in this season definitely sort of superseded where it was before. I mean, you had obviously Ruth, you had Wendy, you had Darlene Snell, the badass lady up on the hill, you had the attorney from Chicago. I felt like this was definitely a season of badass women, more so than season one.
Well, except for sad, ODing Rachel, who just can't get her shit together to...
Yeah.
Anyone ever figure out what her relationship is with that kid who works at her restaurant? I mean, he's not her son. I mean, it was sort of the direction we were led in last year, but she's like, I came back for him, and then you literally never see him again.
Except when he was like, I think when she OD'd, wasn't he like, you need help or she needs help or something?
Yes, that was pretty much it. Poor Tuck.
Yeah.
One scene in the whole damn series. Oh, gosh. So a lot of deaths. Toby, do you think that this show can recover with a third season after offing basically half of its cast? Do you think that it's going to be a remaking when they come back for season 3? Or do you think that we are going to see some shark jumping in the Lake of the Ozarks?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be something to do with the Kansas City mob, than like Wyatt figuring out what's going on.
Yeah. And I think just, the idea that Wyatt would have to pay tuition at a state school.
He had such a good essay.
He had a good essay, and he lives in a trailer on the lake.
Right.
I think he was probably going to get some merit money. Just going to throw that out there.
Pell Grant.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do that thing we do. Let's go around the horn and let our listeners know. Should they check out season 2 of Ozark on Netflix? Should they binge it? Should they skip it? Should they watch a couple episodes and decide for themselves? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Laura Bricker, I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to go with thumbs up. I did binge most of it. I watched like 4 episodes during the week, and then yesterday I sat down and watched like the last 6 episodes. I even missed the benefit softball game my husband was in because I didn't want to stop watching it. So,
oh, Fireman Ken. All right, Toby, what about you? Thumbs up or thumbs down on season 2 of Ozark on Netflix?
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it was definitely, I enjoyed it. So thumbs up.
I'm also going to give it a thumbs up. It's, again, not perfect, but I don't necessarily think season 1 was perfect either. But I love the show. It has a lot to do with the actors that are in it. It has a lot to do with things that they're trying to do, unconventional relationships between parents and kids. I love the atmosphere and the setting. I love the hillbilly gothic, as you say, Kevin. So yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, I'm also a thumbs up. I'll watch anything that has Ruthie swearing at somebody else.
She has a lot of that.
She got a lot of that. It's not as good, I think, as season 1, but it's definitely a worthy sequel, and I think it's definitely worth the 10 episodes you put into it. And remember, you can't run a world-class money laundering operation if you're not good at math. And to get your kids a good head start on math, sign them up for Revolution Math.
Is that what Jonah did?
No, she was pretty good, but sometimes your kids need a little help, right?
Yes,
And what do you do? Sometimes you take them to a tutor, one of those after-school places, and they don't like to go. It's like the same old boring worksheets, and then you gotta
drive them there?
Move heaven and earth to get them there and
leave
later on
work
get
early.
them back.
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it is. Revolution Math offers live online classes with math exercises designed to heighten their skills just in time for the new school year. Revolution Math classes are led by real tutors online in face-to-face interactive classrooms. So think just very much like Skype.
Yeah.
You go right in. You pick the time that works for your family, too.
Nice.
And each week, the students will develop their math skills with their friends. And it's a small class. It's like 3 or 4 kids, and they all go at the same time.
Nice.
So you have, the same cohorts as you're going through it. And, it creates a lasting enthusiasm for math just before the school year begins using Revolution Math. Now, I talked to the guys at Revolution Math.
You did?
Yeah. They really like this product. We like it too, but I said, guys, there's a problem. I don't like the math on the deal.
Mm-hmm.
The deal you're offering. It's not good enough. They said, what do you mean, Kevin? I said, listen to me. This is Crime Writers On audience. You got to give them the best they said. They said, Kevin, you're pushing back. I said, this is happening today, gentlemen. And they said, okay, fine. How about this?
Wow.
Okay, Marty Bird.
Jeez.
That's right. You can enroll your student today and get your first month of classes for only $1.
Wow.
At revolutionmath.com/crime. I just learned all this stuff from Ozark.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling our sponsors, you got to step up to the plate here for our audience.
What was that URL again?
Well, let me tell you, it's revolutionmath.com/crime.
Crime.
So get your first month of classes for just $1. That's math you can remember. $1 at revolutionmath.com/crime.
Crime. What else you got, Kevin?
Well, support for today's show also comes from Beta Brand Dress Pant Yoga Pants.
Dress Pant Yoga Pants.
They are dress pant yoga pants. Remember, they're not dress pants that feel like yoga pants.
They're dress pant yoga pants.
They're not yoga pants that look like dress pants.
They are dress pant yoga pants.
They are sui genius in and of themselves, first of their creation. Dress pant yoga pants. They're the most comfortable pants you'll ever wear to work. Am I right, Rebecca?
They're the most comfortable pants I've ever worn to work. I love my dress pant yoga pants.
They have a faux zipper and pockets, so front button, belt loop. It makes you look sharp, professional.
Everything a dress pant yoga pants should have.
Yeah, but, they come in boot cut, straight leg, crop, leggings, a variety of colors, so you look professional and you feel great.
Yes.
Start wearing your Beta Brand dress pant yoga pants by visiting betabrand.com. Use our code CRIME.
Crime.
You'll get 20% off of yours. Millions of women agree that these are the most comfortable pants you'll ever wear. Do you agree, Rebecca?
I agree. I love my dress pant yoga pants so much.
So much that what?
So much that I'm going to wear them tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Now, if you don't have your pair, get it at betabrand.com. That's BETABRAND.com. Use our code CRIME to get 20% off your dress pant yoga pants.
Dress pant yoga pants. Get them today. Dress pant yoga pants.
Dress pant yoga pants.
Moving on. The podcast network that brought us Dirty John offers another story of a dubious physician and the lives he changed. Dr. Death recalls the case of surgeon Christopher Dunch, a doctor who performed a string of botched surgeries across Texas while the system was unable or unwilling to stop him.
Imagine you're struggling with back pain for months. No one can tell you what's wrong. Then you find a doctor.
And the words that he said that I wanted to hear was, "I can fix you." And, those are magic words. I was in pain, and somebody, a neurosurgeon, said, "I can fix you."
You trust he'll take care of your problem.
Nothing but good reports and a list of accolades that were 2 pages long.
When you talk to him, he's engaging, he seems very intelligent, he's witty, he's charming.
He'd always talk about, "I'm going to be a doctor."
But he has this dark side that he likes to keep separate and hidden from everybody else.
Reporter Laura Beale, an award-winning health and science journalist and vocal twin to Mary Steenburgen, promises a 6-part investigation not only into Dunch's actions, but also into a healthcare system that does more to protect doctors than it does to protect patients. Now, we will be talking about plot points from the first 3 episodes of Dr. Death, which, by the way, is the most popular podcast in America right now. If you would like to jump to our spoiler-free review, look at the show notes, go to the time code indicated, and you will just get our thumbs up and thumbs down review. All right. Wondery is promoting Dr. Death as the successor to Dirty John, running a preview in its feed, a similar art, similar sort of rock and roll sensibility in the theme song. Laura, do you think this show shares DNA with Dirty John?
I mean, there's certainly a lot of similarities in terms of, it's in a medical field. It's a guy that seems very promising to people at first blush, but yet he's leading a double life. He's not who he says he is. People are fooled, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think it's totally the same thing. I mean, I can see similarities, but I think in this case, I feel like the consequences are a lot more serious than just bilking this woman out of her money, which was, in Dirty John. And I feel like there's going to be, a story that has a lot of larger ramifications. So I think there are similarities. I can see, it is the same kind of story, but not totally.
I think that the podcast shares more in terms of DNA with Dirty John in the storytelling respect, more so than the content respect. Yeah. It's very linear. It's very much structured like a book, and Dirty John was the same way. You get a chapter by chapter, complete story, and then the backstory of a person told in a linear way. It's very much structured like a true crime book, right, Kevin?
It is, and I feel very much like you can sense the professional journalist doing a podcast as opposed to a podcaster doing an investigation.
Right.
It kind of feels like that. Very solid, the way that Dirty John was.
Yep. It's pulpy, though, in the same way that Dirty John was. It has a sort of pulpy, hooky kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Toby, what do you think about, the style of podcast here? The Dr. Death, Dirty John sort of genre of podcasting. And do you see comparisons between the two listening to this?
Yeah, I do. There's a strange feel to it, kind of. And I don't know if it's the delivery that she has and then the guy who does the commercials has. It's hard to get past that. But beyond that, I mean, I think it's similar in that they found a story that's pretty compelling, and then they've obviously done the work needed to be able to tell it with enough detail and sort of vibrancy so that it makes for something you want to listen to, certainly.
We have to talk about the ads for a second. We just have to.
Okay.
The promo codes for everything on this show is death, or the URL is death. And so one of my favorites is ziprecruiter.com/death. You have helixmattress.com/death.
It's your deathbed.
I mean, you're not going to forget it, right?
No. I mean, it's not as snappy as crime.
No.
Promo code crime.
That's true. Remember when Crime Town came out and
we were so pissed.
But we still were able to get crime for a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. We staked a claim to crime.
That's right.
I know, Kevin, I want to talk to you about the production because Wondery, obviously they have a range of podcasts that they do, but this is definitely like Dirty John, Wondery partnering with a journalism outlet or a journalist to do a show. And I think that Laura Beale, her writing and her delivery is earnest and pretty straight. Wondery does, I'm going to take the theme song out. They have these distinctive theme songs, which I really like, but their actual sort of mixing and Foley and, use of music is very on the nose with these stories. And it sort of lends itself to that, it almost has like an investigation discovery sort of feel sometimes when you're listening to it with it
should be tense. They play music that's tense. And,
but they play music that's she says something and it's cue the ominous music, and then the ominous music comes in.
For most of his career, Dr. Henderson has focused exclusively on the back. It wasn't unusual for him to get asked to help with a complicated spinal case. But this call was different.
But I had never been called in by the administration to take over the care of a patient.
Or there's a scene where she's talking about a surgery, and in the background, all of a sudden you hear the beep,
in fact, that she'd been taken into intensive care just as Dunch was scheduled to begin operating on Mary Eford.
Yeah. Okay, there's a couple of things that I could have... I don't think were necessary. There were sort of unnatural inserted sound effects, things like, right in the beginning, he's count back from 10. It's you hear it in the promo trailer. It was right up front. It's imagine you're, going into surgery or whatever. And I don't think it's necessary, especially with something that this strong. I would just say some of the sound design, I think, is...
cheesy? That's how I would describe
it. Because I just feel like it's unnecessary.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Because I think it's a very strong show. So I'm not
Just imagine going to a steakhouse, getting a very nice steak and a whole lot of parsley. placed on the plate. And you're like, this,
Right.
I don't need all this.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
not faker. I mean, they don't need it to enhance it because they have the story. And the places where they do some sort of like fakery stuff just to sort of enhance kind of what's going on, it's like, okay, so we're at his birthday party.
When was the first time you remember seeing Christopher Dunch use illegal drugs?
Was at his birthday party.
And immediately you hear the bass
Yeah,
drop with the
yeah.
club sound effects. And it's like, no. I mean, I think there are ways to do that where you can do it with a light touch, but they do it with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is illustrated. And I think that if one or two things were illustrated here and there, it would be fine.
Because you're trying to figure out a way. I mean, if you're the sound producer, you're like, well, we don't have a lot of natural sound of things. You didn't do the drive test.
Yeah.
We have a lot of interviews with people, and
Right.
we want to make this sound interesting from an audio perspective. And so I think you're trying you can do music, but some of it, I don't know.
Some of it's too on the nose.
A little too on the
I will say, to me, I have come to think of that as the wondery sound, and maybe I'll get used to it. I mean, it could just be that. It's just style, because I come from the public radio stuff. That's what we listen to, and this is very different.
It's a lot of bass.
A lot of bass.
Yeah.
A lot of trip
I
hop.
have to say, me personally, I was so enraged by the story, I didn't even notice the sound.
Good.
Rage walking has returned to my life, and I was like, as I was walking around town, just like, oh my God, I think I gasped. I can't even believe what I'm hearing as I was walking around. So,
Laura, tell me what you think about the really gruesome descriptions of these botched surgeries. She gets into detail like he was supposed to be screwing something into the spine, and instead he's just drilling screws into the muscles around. I mean, it's pretty intense, right?
yeah, that's when my rage walking happened. I was listening to it, and it was so horrific, but I think that level of detail actually really worked in this situation because it really illustrated how incompetent and how badly botched these surgeries are. Because you hear about times when something happens in a surgery and it goes awry, but when you hear the level of detail and just the level of just gross neglect and incompetence that happened, it's horrific. Like there were times when I was listening to this, I would actually stop walking and just stand there and be like, oh my God, I like these poor people. And that guy, Jerry, that was friends with him. I mean, that was just absolutely, you really couldn't believe that somebody could do something that badly. So I think the level of detail, it was extremely graphic. And that was what stopped me a lot as I was listening to it. Cause I was like, oh God.
I do. Now, Toby, this podcast is also promising a larger story, and I think we're getting hints of it. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. First episode sort of details a couple of the botched procedures. Second episode goes into some history. We get the Jerry story, kind of a little bit of Dunch arriving in Texas backstory. Third episode, we start to get some of the maybe systemic issues here, and we are promised this is going to be a health care story in addition to just a criminal story. Do you have hope that this podcast is going to deliver on that, given what we've heard so far?
The fact that the reporter is a healthcare reporter, that's her background. She's not like on the crime beat or anything. My sense would be is that she has a health care issue that she wants to expose and has found sort of an exemplary case that makes that point. So that would be sort of my intuition about what her kind of goal is, and that it's hard to make a podcast that's going to be number one about flaws in the healthcare system.
Right.
What you do is you find an outrageous story that illustrates it, and so that would be you just from what little I know of her background, that would be sort of my expectation as to what's going to happen at the end. Is that it's a little bit like what Madeline Barron has done somewhat, which is to illustrate larger problems through a single case that sort of demonstrates those issues.
What this reminded me of as I was listening to this is we had a very high profile case that happened at our local hospital with a guy who, he wasn't a doctor. He was like, what was he? Was he a med tech?
I think he was a surgery tech or nurse, and his name was David Kwiatkowski.
So we had a case in our local hospital, and this is somebody that was assisting with surgeries, cardiac surgeries, but he was actually diverting drugs. And what happened in that case, and it ended at our hospital because that's where it all came to light what had happened. But after this guy was arrested, it turned out that he had been going all around the country doing this. And he would get fired and he would move on to another hospital, and there was no like national database to track where somebody was going if they had any kind of misconduct. So that was on, a level of somebody who wasn't a doctor, but somebody who was clearly impacting patient outcome. In this case, I think where she's going with this, it seems you've got a doctor who is clearly really incompetent, doesn't give a shit about his patients, doesn't even care when he like paralyzes his best friend, and these hospitals are just passing him off, and they're not communicating with each other because they're like, it's not our problem anymore. We got rid of him. But, and I think that might, have to do with like, malpractice insurance and lawsuits and not wanting to be liable. But at the same time, where I hope she's going is that she's going to show that, these large corporate hospitals and these big healthcare centers are basically looking out more for themselves in certain cases than the patients. And had somebody spoken up about this guy and gone public, people may not have died.
Right. Now, I think we should clear up, like this guy Kwiatkowski, he wasn't just diverting drugs, he was using the needles, and then they were using the needles on the patients, and the patients were getting hepatitis and dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he was responsible for a ton of deaths because of his drug issues, and the way he was doing it in particular was pretty bad. Kevin, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How much cocaine and vodka do you keep in your desk at work?
Just the desk or the filing cabinet too? Yeah, 0.
How much sex do you have with your girlfriend on the couch in your office? How many times have you worn? How many times have you worn the same clothes to work 3 days in a row while you're performing in a sterile operating theater?
Never, but I break it up over those 5 days. Yeah.
One of the most interesting things to me is actually what takes place in the third episode is we hear about, because I've been curious about this training situation, because we do hear, and I think that we're all familiar with the story of you go to work and there's somebody horrible there, and then you remember the amazing reference they got when you hired them, and you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And we have good friends who are doctors. One of our best friends is a surgeon, and we kind of know what he has to go through all the time just to be able to do his work. Like when he switched from one job to the other, like he had his affidavit signed, and I like had to notarize them for him and all that stuff. This guy went to medical school ostensibly. People are saying he had this great training, and it turns out like he performed like fewer surgeries than somebody would do like in a couple weeks in medical school.
Yeah. This is the part of the story I really would like to hear, is how he got moved along. After having performed only, fewer than 100 surgeries?
Fewer than 100.
When, the other surgeon is like, he did like
2,500.
Yeah. So, I would wonder about that part. In a way, I can see he was bad at this hospital and ended up going to the second hospital without the second hospital really knowing what they were getting, and then going to the third, because that does happen in a lot of different professions. And sometimes they're moving them along because, just because of sort of general incompetence, and you're moving them along and you really can't give a bad reference.
Or personnel issues, like human resource stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a bad act. Kind of, I think, I'm trying to think, like with the church.
Yeah.
When sometimes there's
prep schools.
Or preps, right. It's like, okay, we're moving them along. We have to get them away from here and just go someplace else. And we don't care whose Dory winds up on. Yeah. This is what I'd like to see in the coming episodes, is to find out a little more about how he got in this position, as well as how come he kept being able to, perform these surgeries without all the other people jumping on his back.
It did happen one time. Someone says they tried to physically intervene when he's performing the surgery. I mean, can you imagine?
Well, you're hopped up on cocaine. You're going to be punching all those people out,
I mean, You'd
be like the sheriff from Stranger Things.
It is a curiosity, and as Laura, as you pointed out in your notes when you sent to me, this is a very Googleable case. Except that I think the information that we want is not actually available in Google searches because there's this pending like lost litigation situation. And I'm just curious about like your guys' theories about what's going on with this guy. What is wrong with him? Is it just drug stuff? Is it mental illness stuff? I mean, I threw out there to Kevin tonight, like, maybe he has CTE. We heard he was a football player in high school because he seems to be having some sort of like degenerative situation. Laura, what do you think?
I think he lacks the empathy gene completely. I think that's kind of an understatement. But I was listening to this when he ended up really botching the surgery on this guy who's basically like his closest friend from high school. And they finally find this guy who's like bitter and angry and ramming everybody with his motorized wheelchair. And it's just really sad. And they're like, did he ever apologize? Did he ever come see you? And he like came and saw him once and didn't say anything about his condition. Nothing about how sorry he felt. I just felt like, is he some sort of a sociopath? I don't know. But he's clearly lacking the empathy gene. You know, when you compare that with those stories you heard about him playing football and how he really wasn't very good at football, but he just kept trying and trying and trying and he wouldn't give up. I mean, you know what? Not everybody should be a football player. Not everybody should be a surgeon. Just because you want to be a surgeon and you keep trying. In this case, I don't think this guy was cut out for this. It sounded like he was more of a research person. But that lack of empathy was very, very disturbing.
What do you think, Toby? You think there's something degenerative here? Do you think it's addiction? I mean, obviously we can't know. I'm asking you to just like hazard a guess of what you think is going on with this guy.
Like the thing I was thinking about was there is this sort of American ideal or myth or whatever that you can do anything you want if you want it enough and you try hard enough. Like that's like a thing. And so that seems to be the way this guy kind of went about his life, right?
Rudy.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's like, if I really want it, I really try, I can be a really good surgeon. You can try really hard, but if you don't have like the basic qualifications to be a surgeon, you shouldn't be trying and failing again and again at surgery. Is different than like being a walk-on for the Colorado State football team.
Yeah.
It seems like he's carrying on this sort of mode of the way he acts and tries to, reach his aspirations from the football field and wrestling and whatever, and he apparently sucked at all of them to the surgery. So
something tells me he'd be really bothered if he heard that you said he sucked at those things.
Well, everybody else says he sucks at them. I mean, I'm sure he'd come over to my house and be like, I think I've got it down now.
So I don't exactly know, obviously whether this is all because he's doing drugs or because there's something else. But there's one story that is actually enlightening to me in the opposite way that it was presented. The story about him doing the football drill at practice. He didn't get it right and asked everybody, can we do it again? And he doesn't get it right, and can we do it again? And, come back the next time, says, Coach, can we do that again? And it's portrayed as like he's persistent and he'll do it and he'll work till he gets it right. But to me, being there's no I in team, it's also a very selfish way of acting.
Yeah.
When you're trying to work cohesively as a team, it's very much about everybody stop, I need to do this.
Right.
Yeah, where he certainly had that sort of stick-to-itiveness and that he applied it and all these, and like say, well, maybe he's just still trying to get, the surgery right, and he's still in there, with a little screwdriver, trying to fix the thing. And so I think that he's just so self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And that seems to be like how I interpret his reaction to Jerry having been paralyzed and, these other things. It's about him.
Yeah. I mean, it's very telling that when he's challenged, or when he's, people are asking him his qualifications, he'll say, I challenge you to find anything bad about me on the internet. You won't find it. Like that's actually a measure of quality or something. Like you can't just get Google, you can't pay them to like lower your results, which by the way, you can pay for that. You can
really?
Pay to, sure.
Oh.
And it's crazy. And I think that your take on the football thing was exactly my take, is you're wasting everybody's time. Like nobody wants to do this with you. No one wants to make practice about you. Rudy didn't do that to his teammates at Notre Dame. He didn't make them go out with him in the rain and run those stupid drills or whatever it was
Rudy.
he did. All right, well, let's do that thing we do then and give our thumbs up or thumbs down review to the mega popular podcast, Dr. Death. Should our audience check it out or not? Laura Bricker, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Yes. It's very, very disturbing, but I like it. I like the way she tells the story. I like the people that she has access to that she interviews. She's got doctors that used to work with him. She's got patients who had botched surgeries, people that had intimate relationships. So I say give it a listen, and it'll get your step count up because rage walking is making a comeback.
Toby Ball, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for what you listened to so far on Dr. Death?
I give it a thumbs up. I think it's been good so far, and I'm optimistic about the second half of it.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up too. Despite my concerns about the fairly dramatic production style that this podcast company does, things being a little too on the nose, a little too illustrative at times. There is a story inside the story here. I don't know if Laura Beale plans to go there or not, but what I'm getting out of it is the unbelievably patriarchal world of men that these surgeons live in, and the testosterone-fueled competition and the one-upsmanship, and how the only women's voices we hear in the podcast are through recordings of depositions, because, you know, the women weren't comfortable being interviewed. They're the side characters, they're the nurses, they're the girlfriends. And it's great that a woman reporter is the one telling the story and peeling back the layers on this crazy, competitive, hyper-masculine world of neurosurgery in Texas. So I'm really enjoying it. It's pulpy, it's fun, it's a little soapy, and it's really gross. And those are all really good. And I mean those all in really good ways. And the journalism is really, really solid. So thumbs up for me. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm also a thumbs up. I'm looking forward to the future episodes. I want to know a little more about what's been making this guy tick. I want to hear from the nurses, because they always know what's happening. They're always on their feet, and they deserve a comfortable pair of shoes. They deserve Rothy's. Rothy's shoes are stylish, sustainable, and comfortable enough for everyday wear anywhere. Rothy's is the everyday flat for life on the go. They have 3 fashionable styles: the flat, the point, and the loafer, and they come in amazing colors. And they are the softest shoe that you'll put on your feet. You know, they're made from recycled plastic water bottles.
Yeah, they're
and
fantastic.
They're machine washable. Laura, you really love your Rothy flats, don't you?
I do. I have to tell you that my shoe wardrobe prior to this was not too exciting. I have flip-flops in summer and clogs in the winter, and I love these Rothys because not only are they cute, they come in all sorts of colors, they're super comfortable, but they you can wear them with things that you can dress them up, you can dress them down, and I get so many compliments on them. Everyone's always like, are those the water bottle shoes? They're great. I like that I can wash them.
Right now, Rothy's has an amazing deal for our listeners. You use code CRIME to get free shipping, no minimum. That's free shipping and free returns and exchanges on your Rothy's shoes when you go to Rothy's, ROTHYS.com, and enter CRIME. This is a no-brainer. Shoes that are comfortable, stylish, and sustainable. Get yourself a pair of shoes, Rothys.com, promo code CRIME. Get this deal while it lasts.
I like to imagine all of our very fashionable listeners, the minute Laura Bricker said, in the summer I wear flip-flops, in the winter I wear clogs.
I was thinking, we got to have a talk.
And they all clutch their pearls. All of our very fashionable listeners were like, what?
I know. I'm super boring.
All right, what else you got, Kevin?
Well, I think we need to send Laura a FabFitFun box.
Yes.
The seasonal subscription box delivered 4 times a year with full-size fashion, beauty, home, fitness, and wellness products. You can get it for just $49.99 a box. These are like full-size products, no little samples. You know,
samples are for suckers.
Samples are for suckers. This isn't meant to be like, brought through TSA.
Right.
You know, we got to have more than 3 ounces worth of some of this great stuff.
You got to check this box.
Absolutely. The fall box is coming out, and this is what's in it. 2 Glam Glow Bubble Sheet Masks, a beauty blender, a simply whimsical set of 2 tea towels, a Skin & Co. Roma Blue and Capri shower gel, and much more. Sign up for FabFitFun today to get your fall box. The FabFitFun fall box is in limited supply, and these boxes always sell out. So use our code CRIME to get $10 off your first box. Go to fabfitfun.com and sign up and start getting the box for a life well lived. Use promo code CRIME to get $10 off your first box. That's over $200 for only $39.99. Go to fabfitfun.com, use code CRIME, and get $10 off your first FabFitFun box.
You sent this one to Lily at college. What else you got, Kevin?
Are you picky about what you use in your home? We are here.
Hell yeah.
That's why.
Have you met me?
That's why Grove believes in healthy, beautiful homes. They should be accessible to everyone. That's why they've made it so easy to get products that you can feel great about. You can find the best healthy home and personal care products, all which have been rigorously tested for health. All which have been carefully tested for health, effectiveness, and environmental impact. And you're in control with customizable auto shipments delivered right to your door that you can pause anytime. I really liked getting my shipment from Grove. They have brands that I like Method and Seventh Generation.
Where that shower spray came from that I love.
Yeah.
Wow, super great.
All sorts of great stuff. It's plus
I love the Method cleaners. You know that.
Yeah.
I'm addicted.
Some nice sponges and hand towels and things that are, just feel really good about getting, sustainable. and not with a lot of heavy perfumes.
Those beautiful dish towels that came, those are from there?
Yeah, those are from there.
Wow.
Those came from our...
Awesome.
Yeah, they have a 100% happiness guarantee plus free shipping. It's so easy to discover amazing and affordable natural home and personal care products with the confidence of supporting a safer environment for your family. So you can try Grove with a 2-month VIP membership and a bonus gift by going to grove.co/crime. That's grove.co/crime, not grove.com. grove.co/crime. Grove makes it easy to have a happy, healthy home.
Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of
the Week.
2 Connecticut lunch ladies are facing charges for allegedly skimming from the cafeteria cash register. The sisters, who are in their 70s, are accused of stealing more than $500,000 over 5 years, although they're expected to have embezzled even more over their 15 years in the kitchen. That's a lot of money. Coworkers say they were told by the sisters not to tally the cash drawers after each lunch, to let them do it instead.
Oh, sure. We'll take care of that.
The thefts were discovered by school district officials investigating an unrelated accounting discrepancy. After being arraigned, the lawyer for one of the suspects said she won't be the scapegoat for her sister. Sisters doing it together.
Turning on each other.
Yeah. So, panel, we know the lunch ladies at this school were up to no good. But what do you think kind of trouble the janitor was getting into? Laura Bricker, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I have a good story for this because the custodian at the old firehouse where my husband used to work ran the book. So he did the weekly lottery ticket purchase. And this was after Fireman Ken left and went to another fire station. It was like morning, we're waking up, the phone's ringing. I'm like, whose number? He goes, I think it's Mr. Bell. So I picked up the phone. I said, is this the book? He's like, it is. I need my money. So that's what's going on.
Wow.
They're running book in the back room.
Now, to be completely transparent, were you playing the actual lottery or were you actually playing the book?
Playing the number.
No, we were playing the Powerball or whatever it is. It wasn't even anything interesting. But he takes it seriously.
All right, Toby Ball, what do you think the janitor's getting into in this school where these lunch ladies have been carrying on this incredible embezzlement scheme?
Organ harvesting.
No. That's not a vagina in the refrigerator wrapped in newspaper.
In a paper bag.
It's a kidney.
Kevin, what do you think the janitor's up to?
He's been drawing the dicks.
There you go.
All right, we should probably end it on that note. But before we do, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We have a big cat appreciation day. It's September 1st, September 2018 was Ginger Cat Appreciation Day. Thanks to Michelle, who alerted me to this because I have 2 ginger boys, Felix and Rocky now. So I had so many nice people send in pictures of their orange cats to me. Colleen has 2 orange cat. Laura in Texas is still trying to get rid of Buddy, who has FIV, I think. Nellie has another ginger boy.
What do you mean she's trying to get rid of him?
Well, it's a cat that she found.
Oh, okay. So she's trying to find
him a home.
Okay.
She's made a nice little poster.
Wow, you made her sound like a monster for a second.
No, he's chill. He's
Paging
orange.
Dr. Death.
We've got some Irish ginger cats, George and Garfield. So in honor of the Ginger Cat Day, thanks to everyone who sent them in, my own not so smart ginger cat Felix today tried to take down a woodchuck. So they're nice cats, sometimes not too bright.
Cat people are freaking weird, huh, Kevin?
Yeah.
Weird.
All right, Laura Bricker, if people want to send you their cats or dogs, could we please have a dog at some point soon?
Okay.
Or iguanas or fish or birds or other kinds of pet for cat/pet of the week, how can they find you on Twitter?
At Laura Bricker.
And Toby Ball, people want to reach out to you on Twitter. How can they find you? What's your handle?
At Toby Ball NH.
And Kevin Flynn, people want to share with you their real life stories of janitors doing organ harvesting or dick drawing. How can they find you online?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On. And I encourage you to join the amazing community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. We also have a regular old Facebook page, by the way. Go to our website, crimewriterson.com, to sign up for our awesome newsletter. Kevin, the newsletter is really super awesome these days. Thank
Great.
you.
I won't be doing it anymore.
Support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media, and you will get access to the Balls Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Up next, The Fact of a Body. You can also get a free month of Stitcher Premium if you go to stitcherpremium.com/crime and use the code CRIME. When you'll join, you get access to our spin-off show, Married with Podcast, on which Kevin and I dispense advice of all kinds, including relationships. Our theme song was performed by the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble and used with permission. This show was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our basement where the old dying man who actually owns the house is living.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, God. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. Let's do the pre-roll right now.
Okay. Little Comfort is a hauntingly twisted psychological thriller by Edwin Hill. Set among Boston's elite, it introduces an unforgettable 4'9" investigator named Hester Thursby, whose missing persons case uncovers a trail of vicious murder and stolen identity.
These books... Bridget solves crimes.
She's like that little lady on what's the show?
The Dwarf Detective.
No, yeah,
Linda Hunt?
what's the one LA one
Yeah,
that's got
Linda
like
Hunt.
the little lady who's like the boss and she's kind of like a little hobbit.
Yeah, that's Linda Hunt.
Yeah, my
Okay.
grandmother knew her.
Really?
That's
And she
what I
was
was
in
envisioning.
The Year of Living Dangerously.
And she was in Dune. Okay, you want to try again?
Yeah. It's Little Comfort. Now I get the title.
Okay, can you do
Right.
this or not?
Yeah, I can
Do
do
I
it.
need to do it? Think about dead kittens or something.
Little Comfort is a hauntingly twisted psychological thriller by Edwin Hill. Set among Boston's elite, it introduces an unforgettable 4'9" investigator named Hester Thursby. Now you're laughing. 12. This is horrible. All right. Now the brilliant and conflicted Hester is on their trail.
What is she conflicted about?
Wait.
Being short.
I've got a lot of questions.
No.
She
I
doesn't
think she's
even have-
conflicted about having to put the poison up really high in the cabinet.
Oh, my
Because now even
God.
she can't get it.
I don't think being 4'10" makes you a little person. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
think she's short like a
Well,
gymnast.
She's 4'9".
That's different.
Yeah.
She's like Carrie Strug. She's not like...
Carrie Strug,
Yeah.
private investigator.
That's the fucking funniest. The best was when you having you can tell you're trying not to laugh. You do your super earnest like reporter voice. You're like, Little Comfort.
Oh God.
All right, that's a good way to start the show. Now I'm warmed up.
Partners in Crime Media.
Grove helps you find the best, non-toxic home and personal care products and delivers them right to your door. With customizable auto shipments, you can pause or cancel anytime. You're in control. Find out how committed Grove is to its customers. With a 100% happiness guarantee and free shipping, Grove makes it easy to discover amazing and affordable natural home and personal care products with the confidence of supporting a safer environment for your family. Right now, you can try Grove with a 2-month VIP membership and a bonus gift by going to grove.co/crime. That's grove.co/crime. Grove makes it easy to have a happy, healthy home.
The friendship is sharing deal.
Because I want one of your McNuggets.
And I need some of your Quarter Pounder.
There's a deal for everyone at McDonald's. Get one favorite like 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a Quarter Pounder, or a Big Mac and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.